UFC 319 in Chicago, Khamzat Chimaev is back. And for him, there's only one acceptable outcome. Because if he loses this fight, it's over. And I don't mean over for now. I mean over for the dream, for the narrative, for good at what's up, everybody. So look, we have to talk about Khamzat Chimaev. We know the story. The undefeated monster, the guy who promised to be a 3-division champion, the fighter who tore through his first few opponents like they were nothing. The hype train was moving so fast, it felt unstoppable. But then it hit a wall. A 2-year wall of travel problems, health issues, and questions. Now, at UFC 319, he's back in the US and he's facing a guy who is a total wild card. And for the first time in his career, everything is on the line. In this video, we're breaking down exactly why this fight against Dricus Du Plessis isn't just another win or a loss. This is where the story of Khamzat Chimaev either gets its next massive chapter or it ends completely. We're going to dive into the 3 biggest narratives hanging over this fight. First, the massive, crushing pressure that comes with his big US return after being gone so long. Second, we'll talk about the incredibly dangerous, weird, and awkward style of Dricus Du Plessis that makes him the perfect puzzle to stop Khamzat. And third, we'll talk about what happens when the triple champ dream turns into a what-if nightmare. Stick with me until the very end, because I'm going to share one specific thing Dricus does better than anyone that could absolutely shatter Khamzat's perfect plan. Let's start with the first and most immediate point, the pressure. The weight of the world is on Khamzat's shoulders, and it all comes from his return to the US. For the last couple of years, he's been mostly absent from fighting in the States due to what was widely rumored to be a complicated visa situation. While he himself often said it was about health or personal reasons, most reports pointed to issues with his Russian passport and his public affiliation with Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. For a star in the UFC, fighting in the US is everything. It's where the biggest media markets are. It's where the biggest events happen. It's where you become a global superstar. And for 2 years, Khamzat was mostly locked out of it. He was still fighting, but it wasn't on the same stage, with the same level of attention. He eventually got a new passport and a long-term visa in Abu Dhabi, which finally allowed him to travel and get back into the US. Dana White even confirmed he would have no issues getting into the country. This isn't just a simple return. It's a comeback. And with a comeback comes a huge wave of expectations. Every single fan, every analyst, every single fighter in the back is going to be watching his every move. Is he still the same guy who we saw rip through the welterweight division? Is his cardio still at that legendary level? Is his wrestling still unstoppable? He hasn't had a fight in a major US media market for so long that the whole world is waiting to see if he can still deliver. This is a man who was once seen as the next big thing, the next GOAT. But in the fight game, if you're not around, people forget you. They move on to the next hot prospect. And now, he has to come back and prove to everyone, and maybe even to himself, that he is still that guy. He needs to put on a performance that makes everyone forget the last 2 years ever happened. A win is not good enough here. He needs a dominant, show-stopping win. Something that makes everyone say, yep, he's back. Anything less, and the doubts start creeping in. The critics start talking. The whole narrative starts to fall apart. The enigma in the ocean and the man standing across from him is not just some average guy. This is Dricus Du Plessis. And Dricus is a nightmare. He's a total puzzle. He's clunky. He's weird. He's awkward. And that's exactly what makes him so unbelievably dangerous. Most fighters in the UFC, you can look at their stance and you can predict what they're going to do. You can see their footwork and you have a good idea of their plan. But with Dricus, you have no idea that he throws haymakers from positions that don't make sense. He'll look like he's about to fall over, and then he'll throw a takedown that just bulldozes his opponent. He doesn't have the perfect technique that a lot of fighters have, but he makes it work. He's a goddamn nightmare to defend against. His style is a chaotic mess, but it's a beautiful, effective mess. He doesn't care about looking pretty or being a textbook fighter. He just cares about winning. And that makes him a terrifying prospect for a guy like Khamzat. Dricus is also tough. His durability is absolutely wild. He has what many people call a crazy chin. He's only been knocked out once, and that was a long time ago in a lower weight class. He gets hit, he gets rocked, and he just keeps coming forward. He's a brawler who just doesn't stop. He brings a kind of suffocating pressure that can wear an opponent down. He's also got some serious power in his hands. And here's the real threat. The most important part of this whole puzzle. Khamzat is a world-class grappler. He loves to clinch and take people down. It's his bread and butter. He uses his grappling to drain his opponents and finish them. But Dricus Du Plessis is not a guy who is going to be easy to deal with in that position. Dricus has a clinch game that is dirty, ugly, and effective. He uses it to throw short, brutal punches, to tire his opponents out, and to completely disrupt their rhythm. He's got tremendous grit, cardio, and effort in scrambles. Khamzat has never had to deal with a guy who is going to meet him in his own wheelhouse and make it a pure war of attrition. He's always been the one dictating the pace, imposing his will. But Dricus is the kind of fighter who thrives in chaos. He's the kind of guy who wants to turn it into an ugly, messy brawl. If Khamzat tries to grapple, he might find himself in a war he wasn't expecting. And if he tries to strike, he might get caught by a weird, looping punch from an angle he never saw coming. This is the biggest stylistic challenge of his entire career. Let's talk about the final, most important point of all of this. The dream, the promise, the narrative that we have all been a part of. The idea that Khamzat Chimaev could be a 3-division champion, a belt in welterweight, a belt in middleweight, and a belt in light heavyweight. This is the story he's been telling us. It's what made him such a superstar. It's why we were all so excited about him. It's the very foundation of his entire career. And that foundation is not as solid as you might think. A single loss here, and it all comes crashing down. Think about it. The narrative of being a triple champion is based on a flawless record. It's based on an unbroken path of pure dominance. The idea that nobody can stop him. A loss to Dricus Du Plessis, a guy who is not considered a stylistic genius or a technical master, would shatter that illusion forever. It would not just be a loss on his record. It would be a loss of the mystique. It would be a loss of the narrative that if he loses, the story changes. It becomes, Khamzat is a really good fighter, but he's not the unstoppable force we thought he was. It becomes, maybe the pressure of the US return was too much for him. It becomes, maybe the hype was never real in the first place. That's a brutal reality. The casual fans move on. The media starts talking about the next big thing, and the pressure to perform becomes even greater. Because now, every fight isn't just about winning. It's about proving a point that everyone has already decided is not true, that we've seen it happen to other cocky fighters before. Guys who came in with all the talk, all the swagger, all the promises, and then they got humbled. The crowd, the commentators, everyone who was on their side, turns on them the second they lose. And the hype train, once it stopped, is almost impossible to get moving at the same speed again. So that's why UFC 319 is the biggest fight of Khamzat Chimaev's entire career. It's not just a fight for a title shot. It's a fight for his legacy. It's a fight for the story. It's a fight for the dream he sold us all on. And Dricus Du Plessis, the most awkward, dangerous, and durable opponent he's ever faced, is the guy who has the potential to make it all come to an end. So, what do you think? Does Khamzat prove all the doubters wrong? Does he come back and remind us why we were all so excited about him? Or does Dricus Du Plessis make a mess of his perfect record and his perfect plan and send that hype train back to the station for good? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this breakdown, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you next time.